And try to give you this answer as quick as possible just to compare the two companies, and I'll give you my personal opinions and some routes that you can take at the end of the video. If you haven't already subscribed, don't forget to subscribe. If this is good information for you and you want future videos like this, give me the thumbs up because that helps me the most with the algorithm. And don't forget to turn that bell icon on if you want to be notified of future videos. Lastly, these companies are not always the best fit in a lot of states, and they're great companies, but there's a lot of different options for different people. So as we talk about those, I'll put in the description below if you're interested in getting a quote with multiple companies. We work with 17 different companies, and I've got another one down there that works with 30 companies. So whether you prefer to have an app to do and never talk to somebody, or you'd like to talk to somebody live and get advice, both of those options are below. So diving in, USAA was founded in 1922. It has over 13 million members. That's a huge amount, especially since a lot of people don't understand that USAA, it's only a military company. So if you have to be some part of the government or military or have a family member that's part of that in order to just get in the door. That's one of the ways that they keep the rates low, is because they're kind of an organization or a club or a group membership, that they weed out some of the people they don't want in the company, which ultimately lowers the risk and lowers the rates that you're gonna pay. Now, comparing that to GEICO, who was built and founded in 1936, they have 28 million vehicles that they insure across the tons of states that they do. They're probably the larger footprint and average overall, have the most open door policy where just about anyone can go in there. Now, it's funny because USAA is the government and the military and all of that, where GEICO, when you look at the name of it, it's GEICO Insurance. So it's Government Employee Insurance Company. That was the name of GEICO. And they initially did similar to what USAA did, and they only let people that were part of the government or an employee of it, then they would only let them in. Now, since a long time ago, like almost right away, they've opened up the doors to anybody, and they've become very competitive, especially for the younger generation. Usually when you're 25 or younger, you're going to pay more for the cost of insurance, but with GEICO, they've planned to have more of a lower rate for that type of person. So the risk for them, they've determined, is lower across the board, which ultimately gives you a better deal. For those that are 25 or older, not as great, but still great rates. And so they've really come out and said, in general, we want to be able to insure just about anyone in any situation, unless you have a ticket or an accident, and then we get a little bit crazy with you. In those cases, you're going to click the link below and you're going to shop around and try to find something that's a better fit for your profile, as we talk about on this channel. So I'm going to give you my opinion of them here in just a moment, and I'll tell you which one I would go with and give you those options. But let's take a look at what Bankrate says about them. I've got them pulled up here, and they said overall the Bankrate score of them is almost identical. The GEICO Insurance got 4.6 and the Bankrate score for USAA got 4.7, so pretty well the same. And they're both A++ rated, which is the top that you can get. So the AM Best rating has given them the most. JD Power has given the USAA 890 out of 1,000 as far as customer satisfaction, so we're including claims, things like that. Where GEICO has gotten an 871 score, a little bit lower, but to be honest with you, the comparison there is pretty null. It just means that GEICO may have had a little bit more claims or might not have taken that extra step where USAA has. So I wouldn't necessarily put that out the door, but when you look at the cost of the annual price, the average for USAA was $384 versus the cost of $582 for GEICO. That's the average annual cost. And that's more of a minimum coverage. If you're looking for full coverage, you're looking about $1,200, just over $1,200 versus just over $1,500. So there's about a $300 gap between the two as far as the scenarios that they used in this case. The biggest thing that plays a factor is going to be your insurance score. Credit score. When you're looking at the insurance score, USAA values that a little bit more than GEICO, because once again, we said GEICO's kind of the overall better fit and the overall open door policy, so they're not going to heavily hit someone with a lower insurance score. And the numbers show it. USAA is about $2,200, almost $2,300 a year if you have poor credit, where GEICO is about $2,000, not quite, about $1,970 is the cost for GEICO. So there's a pretty big gap. It reverses where USA used to be $300 cheaper, but now poor credit, GEICO wins. If you get average, which is probably most people, I would say an average credit score is below 640 or between that 600 to 650 range. and now you're looking at $12.77 for USAA, $15.05 for GEICO. So it kind of flips the cost there, where the average credit plays a big factor. We'll skip right into the excellent. So if you have a 700 plus score in insurance, you're going to be looking at about 1,030 with USAA, 1,312, and that's where it starts to flip. So poor credit is going to be with GEICO, good credit is going to be with USAA, not including the factors of claims and tickets and what profile that you have. Age is the next factor that's going to make a big difference. If you're younger age, you're probably going to lean away from the USAA, even though you have a family and it might be mom, dad, and kids and all of that. GEICO's going to lean towards that because anyone under 25 is instantly considered high risk. Just the number of claims as you're learning to drive is going to play a pretty big piece of it. And USAA just knows that that's not the risk they're looking for. You're not the profile fit in those scenarios. Now, they might be looking for mom, dad with kids, and that's fine, but if you're younger, in general, you're gonna lean towards GEICO. I'll just quickly rant out the numbers in case you guys are curious. So 16 years old, $2,200 versus 1,900. 18 is 3,300-ish versus 3,700-ish. Age 25 is 15 versus 17, and then we start to flip-flop. So age 30 is 1,300 versus 1,500-ish. I'm rounding these off. And then age 40 is going to be 1,225, 1,405. Notice how they're just like the credit, they're flipping now. And then age 60 is 1,073 versus 1,326. Driving record is no different. We're going to see the same flip-flop happen. Have a good driving history, you're going to be best fit for USAA. And as it starts to creep out, it's going to go more towards GEICO, even though now we're talking about whether GEICO's even a fit for you, and now we're looking at more of a Progressive or a State Farm or somebody else. That's where we recommend that you subscribe to the channel so you get more updates on who's going to be the best fit for those scenarios. So clean driving record, you're looking at USAA at about $1,200 versus about $1,400. So it's a little slight difference there. And then when you get a speeding ticket, it is about the same difference where they're okay. GEICO is going to be about $1,700 versus $1,500. So you're still seeing that $200-ish gap between them. And the DUIs and convictions, now GEICO freaks out because that's just out of their wheelhouse. They're $3,000 versus $2,100. Most of this data was taken on if you're doing the standard liability, which in today's age or the time of this video, the normal is $100,000 per person, $300,000 per accident. Property damage is $50,000. Uninsured motorist typically the same, and then you have full coverage with the $500 deductible. So these numbers, if you're doing PLPD, just liability only, you're going to pay a little bit less of a cost. Keep in mind, it's not exact because each state's different, and it's not necessarily all even offered with some companies. GEICO does restrict some of the people allowing them to do quotes, like in my state. In Michigan, it's almost impossible to get insurance with them. They make it difficult on purpose. Overall, what is the one to go with? Personal opinion, if you are a fit for either, if it's about $100 difference across the board, let's say in the next annual cost of insurance is $1,200 versus $1,300 or vice versa, personally, I would even pay a little bit more to go with USAA. Their track record is amazing. They are kind of hidden in the insurance world as far as not being high rated because there's always an asterisk with them because they don't allow just anybody in. You have to be part of that military group. And because of that, your AM Best and your JD Power and your websites that are ranking them don't put them in the #1 slot where they really deserve to be, mainly because the way that they handle claims far exceed most companies. Where GEICO is really good and they're above average with claims, they're just not quite at that level where the USAA is going to sit. And that's personally where I would like to be. I want to make sure if I have a claim, if something happens, they're going to pay it. Sometimes if there's a little bit extra, they're willing to out-pocket a few expenses just to make sure that you're satisfied and that the claim goes the way that you want.